Now I know you're feeling down. I can ease your pain. Take you on your feet again. Notice the low, soft palate. In this pain you are receiving. A distant ship smoke on the horizon. You are only coming through in waves. Lips move, I can't hear what you say. Comfortably known. Roger Waters. England and parties. All right, that delay's a little ridiculous. Let me turn that off. A few moments later. Hey, what's up, guys? So we are here to talk about the great Roger Waters. Roger Waters, godfather of Pink Floyd. He was born in 1943. His father was famously killed on a bombing mission on the Western Front. It really shook up Roger Waters' whole life. And, you know, sort of kind of the mystery of Pink Floyd is a little bit Roger Waters chasing this legacy of who his father was and who his father would have been had he ever gotten to know him. Pink Floyd, probably the biggest cult band of all time, the most popular, just absolutely legendary kind of work, oeuvre. Fun fact, my favorite Pink Floyd album is actually The Final Cut, which is for sure Roger Waters' brainchild. So you can see that we rented out the amphitheater in Pompeii for this, so please like and subscribe. We got a lot of money to make back. But we're here to talk about what makes Roger Waters' vocal tone so unique and special, and how you can kind of add this feeling to it as well. So vocally, what I've added to the chain is I'm using a 67 kind of preamp through my Apollo Sphere. Really, we're going to get into the vocal technique, but I just kind of want to get into some of the the hardware. I was using pretty standard compression and with the LA2A and the 1176 combo that's using practically everything. I'm also using a Trident A range plugin, which I just turned off to talk to you because it's a little bit distracting. Let me give it to you with it on, just so you get an idea of what it does. So this is with the Trident A range on. It makes everything sound just a little bit robotic and makes everything sit really nicely in a mix. I'm pretty obsessed with the Trident A range. A lot of 70s vocals were recorded using the Trident A range console, including, I'm pretty sure, Pink Floyd. So then this plus like a chorusing, plus a delay, plus a nice reverb is going to give you that kind of atmospheric stuff that Roger Waters puts in that. You can't really do a lot of Roger Waters without a pop filter because you want to get really close and you want to be very transient. There's check out that song. I think it's track 2 or track 3 off of The Final Cut. There's just some great sibilance in there. Jesus, Jesus, what's it all about? Trying to clutch these little ingrates into shape. When I was their age, all the lights went out. There was no time to whine or mope about. There's some really cool, very evocative techniques that he uses. It's very whispery. Probably the number one thing for getting a good Roger Waters tone as far as performance goes is actually something that I learned about how to do movie trailers. Because you guys might know that I'm a voice actor. So a trick that I learned about how to do movie trailers from the greatest guy of our generation for doing movie trailers, Mr. Brent Allen Hagel. He teaches his technique. You should just follow him on Instagram because he's amazing. I've had him on my podcast before. Just a super talented dude. And hopefully he's not mad I'm giving away this little tidbit. But I was doing the in a world, one man. And he was just like, technically voice kind of doing the right stuff, but something's missing. And he goes, do this one like you're dead. Doing this like you're a voice of the dead, right? In a world of corruption, one man must stand against and create the ultimate fighting machine. You can see I was kind of in and out of it there. But those moments when you were really, truly speaking like you're dead. This is just a really great tip for art. I have a quote that I haven't really released, but pop art is a death cult. I don't really know what I mean by that, but I know how it feels. It kind of ties in with Steven Tyler. One of my favorite quotes. He goes, the music industry only makes sense on heroin. Don't do heroin. Probably don't get into the music industry either. But there's something profound in that, which is that when you're in this place of like absolute neutrality and death, there's a level of charisma and fascination that is drawn in. And Roger Waters is an absolute master of singing like it's from a dead guy, you know, from the voice of the dead, right? Corporation. Corporation means voice of the dead. How fun is that? So if you are, want to get that kind of fear of the corporation, across, one way to do it is to pretend that you're dead while you're singing the vocals. There was no time to whine and mope about. But then, his kind of whispery, breathy stuff is very much alive and kind of scared, hiding in a closet kind of thing. My favorite song on that album would have to be The Gunner's Dream. Floating down through the clouds, memories come rushing up to meet me now. Now. Right? There's that. Now, and in the space between the heavens and the corner of some foreign field. And he pops those T's, right? He pops those T's, and right now it's not getting the effect because I don't have delay and I don't have reverb on it. But if I field, that T kind of, right? And it just creates this really kind of, again, dead atmosphere. The other thing that you want to do when kind of trying to get this Pink Floyd Roger Waters sound is lower your soft palate. And again, this sort of goes in the thing with being dead. An opera singer, when they're live, like, there's all this talk about, raising the soft palate. I'm kind of dropping my larynx, too. You can hear that, Dudley Do-Right voice start to come in. But if you were dead, you would have no muscle function, and your soft palate would hang down really low. Kind of like Marlon Brando, or, like a politically incorrect, the way like a person is deaf, like often speaks. Just a very low, soft palate. Roger Waters sings with a very low, soft palate. All in all, and that's just a chorus of children singing, isn't it? Mother, do you think they'll drop the bomb? Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls? Is it just a waste of time? He does that, he sings kind of, it's a light mechanism, so he can easily kind of time. He'll do stuff like that, like sing in a kind of a light mix and then legato slide down and then end with kind of a time. A rumbly, what do you call it? Rumble range. I like that term better than vocal fry, because to me, vocal fry sounds very like this, and it's just kind of a different feel, even though it's technically the same mechanism and the same kind of registry alignment, but it just feels different. So I like to use the term rumble range. Is it just a waste of time? Hush now, baby, baby, don't you cry. So he'll add in, he doesn't sing with like a bel canto breathiness all the time thing, but he moves it in there, right? It's not smooth like a Steve Perry, like, only the young will say. like where it's just kind of all the time, but he'll go, "Is it just a waste of time?" and get really breathy right at the end. I was trying to think of some other tricks that Roger Waters will use to create these very ghostly kind of, again, voice of the dead effects. He doesn't do that. He's got a powerful head voice. I mean, listen to that note in Gunner's Dream, right? And hold on to the dream. Again, would sound a lot better with reverb, and I'm not doing it perfectly, but whatever. So then he uses a proximity, right? You can hear it, and it kind of, the vocal fry kind of merges into a saxophone solo. That's another trick that Pink Floyd will use, is these kind of bright, brassy lead instruments will kind of go in and out of like a human being screaming. So I saw Roger Waters at MSG, and as a lot of people did, there was a lot of it was fairly underwhelming. He's a very intense performer. He had a lot more kind of charisma than I expected. There was a lot of Mick Jagger energy, and it was kind of sarcastic and ironic, which I appreciated. But he seemed to be very kind of like political with a small p, in the sense of like he did a lot of Dark Side of the Moon, because that's what most people want to come and see. I'm more of a Wall / Final Cut guy. But anyway, so he did play a lot of those songs, and instead of just hiring somebody to do the David Gilmour parts, he just didn't have anybody play lead guitar. And like so much of what makes Pink Floyd great is these very dark lyrics, very dead lyrics, but then like a very bright Telecaster sound, which creates this brilliant contrast, right? And so when he's performing live, he just didn't really do that, which is, it's a little bit heartbreaking. And then of course there's, a fair amount of grandstanding, which I don't really have too much of an issue with. I mean, he's such a genius, and, I kind of agree with him about, war in general being a racket and all that stuff. There was definitely something missing musically without having David Gilmour there, somebody to play these kind of epic, most famous, maybe the most beautiful guitar solo of all time, and like Comfortably Numb, the two guitar solos and, all that stuff. But I was definitely affected by his charisma and his ability to do live vocally what he does in the studio. Nonetheless, you wish that they would come back together. My understanding is that, that's never ever going to happen, because Roger Waters felt very kind of like cheated out of what he felt like was his creative IP. When Syd Barrett kind of lost his mind, he was the original kind of front man for Pink Floyd, and if you ever hear their super early stuff, they're sort of going down the primrose path of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which I love that John Fogerty said that, like, damn, Sgt. Pepper's just like ruined the minds of so many great musicians that were like, we need to do our Sgt. Pepper's now, and so a lot of drug taking and mediocre music ensued, but anyway, he lost his mind famously, and of course, like, that's when Wish You Were Here was all about Syd Barrett having lost his mind. Really tragic story. He like kind of appears in the studio, but like nobody recognizes him for like hours because he's just so gone. But anyway, all this stuff kind of informs how to get your own Roger Waters sound, and this is really worth doing, not to copy him, but to learn why the music of Pink Floyd is so timeless and has such a powerful impact on musicians for decades. I mean, basically forever. As long as there's like rock, pop, alt music, Pink Floyd is going to be at the, in the top 5 list of like almost any, musician who's into that kind of dark prog rock type of vibe. And who wouldn't be? I mean, it just gets truer every day, right? So anyway, yeah, please start to play around with, lowering your larynx at times and also to create this voice of the dead thing. I highly recommend that for almost all studio recording. You should be doing kind of like the Dead, and I don't mean like the Grateful Dead, but like the literally dead version of what you would do live. You know, live you'd probably be playing with the audience a little bit, but in the studio you kind of want the neutrality of like a death delivery. It's just going to contribute to that album, that song being more timeless sounding and sounding ironically more confident, right? People talk a lot about confidence, especially for a singer. I mean, you know, what kind of greater currency is there? One way to achieve that is to deliver a performance that sounds like it's coming from the afterworld, right? The afterlife. So mess around with this. Have fun with this, and keep listening to Pink Floyd.